We're going to do it. All right. Good. Let's go ahead and get started this morning. Thank you all so much for being here. We have a very special morning, and it's extra special because IT is not here. So we're doing our best to pretend that we have skills in IT. So we will probably have someone come in and get things arranged the way we wish to have them halfway through. But until then, we're going to improvise. So I am very pleased this morning to introduce my friend and colleague, Paige Hector. And I invited Paige today because, as we all know, we're living through a pretty tough time. A lot of unrest in our community, and as healthcare providers, I think we end up absorbing a lot of this. It follows us into our clinics, it follows us into our homes, it follows us in many places that we wish it to not come. And so what becomes not just a soft skill, but really a vital skill is how we listen and how we communicate. And so this is what Paige will bring us. And so I thought we would step back from our clinical updates today and work on just connecting as human beings. So Paige is a certified trainer with the Center for Nonviolent Communication. She's a licensed social worker, and she has more than 30 years of experience in healthcare. She's going to bring us today one of her practical trainings that transforms how teams use language to strengthen relationships with colleagues, residents, patients, and families. Her experience is both professional and personal. Her grandmother lived in the facility where she served as the director of social services. She has been an associate editor for Caring for the Ages. She's co-authored an award-winning book on psychosocial care in nursing homes. And she has developed a curriculum for Project ECHO and Arizona State University School of Social Work. She was also named in 2018 the Gerontologist of the Year by the Arizona Geriatric Society. So we welcome Paige today. We are going to have an extended session today. So we'll be here for 90 minutes. And then after, we will do our brief division meeting. And let's get rolling.
Okay. Thank you. It's so nice to be here. My dear friend, it's just so nice to be in a space where people are so committed, and all of you are here because of the passion that you have for the patients you care for. This is really loud. It is really, is it just really loud for you all? Yeah. Is there something on this that you can turn it down? We will get this. We will get this. Nothing on there. Is it on there? Okay.
And sometimes it helps to not be. I wonder if we can turn this guy on. Can we do that?
Okay, see if that. Okay, is that, no, that's still really loud. Okay, we'll just try to whisper.
And okay. I've got a mic in one hand
and a clicker in this and two different screens. Is this uncomfortable for anyone, this volume? Is it hurting anyone? Okay, let's just give it a whirl. We're going to keep going here. Okay, so we're going to be using two different computers up here this morning, and we're just going to adapt. We're going to adapt as we go. I think we're getting the reverb from that. Welcome. Introduction to nonviolent communication, compassionate communication. You are going to hear me use those words interchangeably. The challenge for me whenever I teach is that I have years and years of study of bringing it all together in today in 90 minutes. So it's balancing the generosity of what I want to bring to you with the manageability of the offering. So what I've done is what I typically do is the slide deck that will be available to you will have much more content than what I will cover today. So here's what we're going to be doing today. And this is not working either. It's okay. We're going to get it. We are going to just get this together. Okay. We are going to be talking about compassionate communication, the different principles of it. We're going to talk about the concept of harm as a continuum. We'll be talking about trauma and social conditioning. We're going to talk about empathy a lot. And then as we go through these slides, I invite you to think of one thing that captures your interest, one thing that you might think, oh, I want to try that. I want to focus my attention and shore up this particular skill. I want to first start with a perspective on time. One of the things I get asked most is how in the world am I going to do this? What I tell people is that if we could think of a different perspective of time, if we can think about, instead of I don't have enough time, there isn't enough time, which we are socialized to think that, by the way, scarcity thinking. What would happen if we switched the paradigm, if we switched around and we said, instead of saving time up front and losing it later, I'm going to switch it around and slow down a bit and be able to harvest the results later. So this is the framework that I am bringing, that I bring to all of my work, because like any skill, when we onboard something new, it does take time to bring it online. It does take time to get comfortable with it. Speaking of time, I want to take just a moment. I want to echo what Dr. Levy has just said. I want to acknowledge the enormity and the complexity of the stressors and the uncertainty that we are facing in our world today. For many, and some of the people sitting in this room today, it can be a struggle to survive and to thrive. You're managing your own needs, the needs of the people around you and your families and all of your patients and all of the responsibilities we have. This is an enormous task, and it's sometimes hard to maintain the hope and the joy of why we do this work, of why we come to this work every single day. So with that, my message, here's how I come to you today. I come to you with compassion and grace for these difficult times and sometimes heartbreaking situation. I also will name what's difficult while at the same time advocating for change. Do one more on yours because it's an animated slide. Do one more. There you go. That's okay. Okay. Nope. There we go. This was a post I read recently. A colleague of mine sent it to me, a hospice social worker from the chaplain, and it just spoke to me. And so the way that this post read, it was repeated multiple times. This one sentence was repeated. Your grief for the violence of this world is a mirror of your heart refusing to close. Just notice how that lands in your body for you for a moment. What I want to do next is I'd like to invite you to all, either in your own minds or even out loud if you'd be willing, I want to say these words together and see how that impacts us as a group and individually. Your grief for the violence of this world is a mirror of your heart refusing to close. Your grief or the violence of this world is a mirror of your heart refusing to close. Your grief for the violence of this world is a mirror of your heart refusing to close. Anybody have a physical reaction to that? Maybe goosebumps, something shifted a little bit inside. That's what was happening for me as I spoke those words, and that's what I bring to you today. This is the segue into talking about compassionate communication, or in my world, I will also use nonviolent communication. They can be used interchangeably. My preference is NVC, but I also want to acknowledge that there's a little bit of a charge to the word about nonviolence. So I'll be talking about that in a moment as well. So Marshall Rosenberg, as a child, he grew up in Detroit. There was a lot of violence. He witnessed violence, a lot of anti-Semitism. And so he determined as a young age, he wanted to understand. He wanted to understand, how could human beings have propensity for such incredible violence, but also for compassion at the same time? Led him on a life journey, and he created nonviolent communication. So I'm wondering if any of you might have a little bit of activation, a little bit of like, ooh, I'm not nonviolent, a little bit of put offness by that term. So I want to ask you, let's look at the elephant in the room. How many of you think of yourself as not violent? I would hope all the hands go up. That was me too, right? Can you imagine if your colleagues did not raise their hands right now? So, right. Now, however, you know there's going to be a twist here, y'all, right? So I'm in the boat with you. I also thought I too was not a violent human being. And then something changed. Let me tell you what happened. It was about 5 years ago. I was doing a directed in-service at a facility in Arizona where I'm a directed in-service trainer. And I was reviewing a care plan. This is for a nursing home resident, which has been the majority. I've done some acute, but mostly post-acute care. So this colleague and I were reviewing the care plan, and she said these words to me. She said, Paige, that care plan is so violent. Now listen, folks, this was about 25 years into my career, and I'd read many, many care plans that looked a lot like the one I was reading about this resident. I was aggravated with this human being, and I said to her, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? This is a violent care plan. And she said to me, the words and the way that we're approaching this resident's care is actually violent. She said, have you ever heard of nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg? And I had not. It was that moment that my world changed, and it began me on a trajectory I didn't see coming, which lands me here doing this work with all of you today. This is my professional, it is my personal endeavor to bring nonviolent communication into every healthcare setting and business setting that I possibly can, which is why I'm so grateful to be here today. So I want to look at the concept of violence. I would like you to think of it as a continuum. So as you can see, imagine on one side of the continuum is a judgmental thought, and over here we have physical harm. And anything on that spectrum is actually considered violent. Now, there's a wide spectrum, and these are rather general endpoints. But over here on the one side is a judgmental thought. That's typically where violence begins. It's the thought that we have in our head. Judgmental things can be anytime I assign wrongness or badness to another person or group of human beings, that begins a trajectory that can be that can wind up actually in physical violence. Because once you start blaming and judging people, you start blaming and judging the other person, it opens the door to more violence. And then it's like a spiral. So now we have violence, we have judgmental, blaming behavior, argumentativeness, defending, counterattacking, arguing. This stuff happens very, very quickly, okay? As human beings, we will have judgments. And what I want to ask you to do is we don't judge ourselves for having judgments. I do a lot about transforming judgments. I'll give you a smidgen of that material here today. It's not about getting rid of our judgments, folks. It's about understanding the message that they're giving to us, okay? It's not about judging them. So let's stay for a moment with judgments. We're socialized to have judgments. What I mean by that is where we work, live, play, worship, in every club, everywhere. Just go to a playground and you are going to hear the little ones on that playground and they will be having judgments of one another. It is everywhere. We did not create it, but we do sustain it. We live in it. We are part of it. I want to do my part to get out of this, to help other people to see ways to get out of this. Take a look at this magazine a few years ago. My husband's a geriatrician as well. And we get this magazine and look at the cover, bad behavior. The pandemic may be over, but patients are still acting out. Now, I want to read some words to you as I read this article. So already you see some judgments up there, yeah? Of course you do, right? When I saw that, I was like, ooh, this will definitely be going in my presentation. My husband says that, he's like, that's going in your slide deck. I said, oh, yeah, it is. Judgments in this article, I'm going to read them to you. Patients who cause problems, who are abusive, providers deserve some of the blame. That was put in there. That was the author. Patients railroad their care. They're being dismissive. They're resistant. Poor choices, bad physician behavior. So now we're going to blame all of you. And people being insulted. This was all in one simple little trade magazine article. So here's the thing. When we judge and blame other people with prompts like the problem with you all, and there's always like this finger pointing. So if I'm pointing a finger at you, what's pointing back at me? 3, actually 6 if I do point, right? So they're pointing back at me. So when I do the problem with you, you should have known better. Well, it's your fault over there, Jessica. It's you did it. Or I can be judging and blaming myself, which will sound like the same words coming at me. I should have, it's my fault. What was I thinking? And I'm so fill in the blank. So what happens is when we judge and blame other people, it does not create an environment that any of us wants to be around. Imagine your colleagues or people, patients, families, when they judge you and blame you, that's a difficult situation to be around. Even if intellectually you know it's not technically about you, it's still not fun to be around. It diminishes connection with one another and trust, yeah? When I do the same to me, basically all my energy and life energy and force is getting my own self through the day, because when I have those judgments of myself, I'm not good enough. I should have. Why didn't I? What was I thinking? All of that energy now that's just trying to get me through the day, that's where all of my energy is going. That's also not fun either. So folks, these are called communication habits. We were taught this. We didn't make this up. I can't imagine we would be choosing this behavior. So these are communication habits. And the thing is, there's also impacts on the organization. I'm not going to read this slide to you. I put it up there. You can take a look at it. But all of these, as you look at all of these, when we decrease morale and we don't have trust with one another and our colleagues and our patients, this impacts the organization. Okay, these are the impacts on the organization. There's also a financial element to this. So imagine this number. This is a global study. I don't even know how to conceptualize 1.2 trillion. I don't know how to make sense of that number. But if you look at this part here that I've circled, $12,500 per employee per year, even if you play with me and say, okay, so this isn't just healthcare, it's worldwide, it's all business and organizations. If I said, okay, let's say $5,000, there's a monetary value that goes into, well, that's really a lot of reverb, isn't it? There is a monetary value that goes into poor communication. When we are not gelling as teams, when we are not together and trusting one another, there is a monetary value with that. So I want to pose two questions to you. The first one, do you prefer to spend time, energy, morale, and money dealing with conflict, stress, and complaints? As I thought, no one raised their hand. Thank goodness, yes? Okay, how about this? Would you rather spend time learning new skills to decrease conflicts and complaints and stress and increase morale and save time and money? Obviously, this is where we want to be. Yeah, this is why we're doing this work today. So here's the thing. Creating this type of environment means understanding the concept that we are interdependent. We depend on one another. We are inextricably intertwined with the lives of other human beings. Just having the privilege of being with one another here today took a lot of different people, right? It took the roads or the way that you transported yourself to this, the food that you're eating that Jessica picked up for you, the Panera company, they made the food for you, all the patients you get to see, the tools and the things that you will use in your work today to bring the care. All of this depends on an amazing interwovenness between all of us. So what happens in this division department or down the hall or in that building over there, we're all intertwined. Do some of you avoid looking at the news sometimes? I know I do. I can't stomach it because I'm affected. It affects me when I see the pain and the horror, even if I'm in Tucson, even if it's not in Tucson, Arizona. If it happens here in Denver to you all, I'm with you. It hurts. So we are inextricably intertwined in this work together. So this work begins with empathy. How do we get to this place of interdependence? It begins with empathy. And here's the definition. There's many. I used a variety of different ones, but the definition I enjoy using, it's a simple one. Empathy is a quality of understanding another person's experience without judgment. Is this our IT guy? Welcome, friend. Welcome. This is not as bad. I was giving a lecture one time at a hospital in Tucson and we lost all the power. Oh, maybe just that floor of that room, but so we can wing this. Oh, that happened. So that was not with me. Okay. Can I keep going while you play with your stuff? Can I do my thing? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Okay, empathy. So here's the thing. Look at this darling picture. Do we have a picture? We don't have a. They're
They are.
They're on there because I'm sharing them right now on my laptop. Because the people on Zoom couldn't see because the screen was down, but I stopped sharing.
Do the people on Zoom know that we're doing tech stuff?
Yeah.
Jessica, are we still on Zoom? Okay, so for those in the Zoom ethers, we're having technical difficulties and we're working on situating it. So hang tight, please don't go anywhere.
So this is.
It's okay. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be teaching from this side now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a way that I can use my clicker? Okay, show me which it is.
Go forward. You can also go back.
I'm seeing her nose.
Oh, I
Okay,
don't,
so I have to,
oh, yeah, please.
I can change my shirt.
Better?
Lovely, thank God. Okay, so
This again.
this is very loud.
You should be fine now that if you're out of the other conference. Go ahead and speak for me.
Okay, is the volume any different or better, folks? Is it better? It's still a little bit on the loud. Yeah, just a bit. Okay, is that better? Can everyone still hear? Oh, I'm getting a thumbs up in the back. Phew. Okay. That's okay. Okay. We got it. Okay. Yeah, you're going to stay here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we got this. Healthcare people, we're flexible. We can do this. Okay, so let me just get my thoughts here. Where were we? Get to the best picture. I promise it's coming. Just hang tight. Ready? Are y'all ready? Here we go. Oh, do you hear that? Okay, so what was I teaching? We were talking about empathy. I'm having empathy for myself in this moment. Okay, here we are. What do you see with this? Isn't that just amazing? Can you see your little ones, for those of you who have kids or kids in your family? Even if you aren't really fond of kids very much, I am in a room with geriatricians. There's something still beautiful about this, yes? This little girl, folks, she wasn't taught how to do this. She did not read a book or have instructions. Her parents didn't teach her. Empathy is part of us, is how we are wired as human beings. But the problem, nowhere that's a problem. Here's not the problem. We are socialized to block it. We are socialized in the way that we are taught to think, behave, and feel and speak. We are taught to block empathy, which is a tragedy. Here's what I mean by when I say blocking empathy. Just take a quick look at these and see if anything pops out to you. I will guarantee, almost guarantee, that you all will have some of these tendencies. We all do. So when someone's sharing something with you that's particularly difficult or painful or even excited, we tend to opt to these responses. Offering advice is a biggie. I have a presentation that I give is raise your hand if you enjoy unsolicited advice. I've yet to have anyone raise their hand. Anyone willing to call out which of these do you do? I usually get quite an array. Anyone willing? Which ones do you tend to go to? Which one? Well, at least. What one is that under there, Carrie? Yeah, the minimizing. Okay. What else do people do? What was that? Storytelling. Yeah. Fixing. Very popular selection, indeed. Yeah. Silver. Oh, are you a silver lining person? Yeah. I've actually told people don't silver line me right now. Okay. My husband and I, we at least have 22 years marriage at this point. So we're to the point where I say, listen, I don't want advice right now. What I need is just you to listen and be with me. I do not want advice. I'll let you know if I'm ready for your advice. But it helps because I'm being clear with him what I want in that moment. I'm being clear with my communication. So here's the thing. This training that I keep talking about, this is one of the things that is a barrier to us being able to have and to receive and show up with empathy. What I mean by socialization, it's everywhere. Think, feel, behave in socially acceptable ways. It impacts our ability to give and receive empathy and also to recognize trauma. So at a very young age, we are socialized to compete, judge, argue, criticize, counter argue. My husband and I call it ping ponging. That's our just way of, we describe it. We're ping ponging. I say, he says, and we're basically in that ping pong. I also think of it as a hamster wheel. To think and communicate in terms of right or wrong, good, bad, appropriate, inappropriate. It's very polarized, judgmental thinking. But even on the playground, again, little ones will be able to, you'll hear them arguing, well, it's your fault. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. And it's very, very young is when this starts. So these habitual ways of thinking and speaking, they hinder our communication. They hinder how we show up. And there's a lot of misunderstanding resulting in pain and anger. And then we're on the violence spectrum on that continuum. It happens very quickly and easy. Take a look at this cartoon. It's your fault. No, you're a big old liar. Joe, Ruthie, I want you both to sit down for 20 minutes and pretend you like each other. Look at them in the third little box there. They're just staring at like, what? What do we do with this? Ooh, that's going to be hard. I am going to need an acting coach. So just look in this one little cartoon. You've got messages including blaming, arguing, labeling, power dynamics, the mom, the parent figure over the children, and covering up emotions. So these are the messages. Here's a whole list of them now. Give you a lot more to look at here. Do you identify with any of these? The messages that we have around obedience. So as your eyes wander through them, if anyone is willing, after you have a second to read these, I'm wondering if any of you had the experience of receiving these messages growing up, or maybe we still do. I've had people, I've done experiments, I won't do here just because we're a little bit behind time. Have people count the number, and it's not, obviously this is not research-based, it's just an exercise in humanity. I've had people say almost all of them. As children, now we're adults. As we grow up, we learn and integrate messages like this. I don't have choice, I'm not good enough, my needs aren't important, I don't matter, I don't believe or trust that I matter. Not worth the effort, I've not earned it, don't be so sensitive, emotional, do not ask for help. Does anyone identify with any of these messages in this room? I see hands and I see people nodding. These translate into what I call the adult versions. In a minute, we learn to temper our emotional reactions. So basically we get the messages, do not hurt people's feelings, don't argue, don't make me mad, right? So I'm not blaming our parents because guess what? They were swimming in that same water. They were socialized by their parents, and then we all get the benefit, and then we continue the cycle. So the adult versions that I was talking about, these are the ones that I think of more in our bodies today and in our brains and minds. Well, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I will not let anyone down. I have to keep going. I'm not going to impose. That was one of mine. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be too much for people. I can't show vulnerability. I have to be on point, snap out of it. And golly, golly, do not show your tears. The visual I think of a lot is this. It's like the water. This is a real image, by the way. It's like the water we're swimming in. It's like when you're all in the same space and you don't even know it's happening. That's what the socialization happens so quickly around us. We don't even know what's happening. We're so accustomed to it. The blaming, the arguing, the judging, the criticizing, the counter arguing, the defending and debating. We don't even know what's happening because we're so accustomed to it. I'm happy to say I am at least out of the water. I'm on the pool deck. Sometimes I'm away from the pool. And then sometimes I am stuck in the deep end and I'm sinking to the bottom. So if you think what we're doing here, what I'm inviting you to do is we are talking about unlearning this mess. And I'm asking us to relearn something to replace this with. This mess does not go away. It's not going to go away. It will always be a part of it. But what the cool thing is, we get to be more astute and we get to pick it up when it's happening. So the other thing that makes it very difficult to empathize is trauma. So I briefly want to give you just an overview. I do a ton of teaching around trauma. I picked out just a few slides for you. The definition we'll talk about here is that it's an event, series, or a set of circumstances experienced as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening with lasting effects over many different domains. This is one definition. In the slide deck you'll receive, it will also be psychological and emotional trauma and medical trauma, of which there are many. And that one's particularly tender. When I was doing more teaching right after and during the pandemic, the idea that there's a division or a space of trauma that's specifically about medical stuff, it's really hard when I'm with a group of medical staff that the things that we do with our intention to help and to heal and support and to fix are also sometimes the same things that are the stimulus of a trauma experience for another human being. That's a tender place to be in. In the words of Dr. Gabor Mate, he says that trauma pervades our culture from personal functioning through social relationships, parenting, education, pop culture, economics, and politics. And the second sentence is that someone without the marks of trauma is an outlier in our society. As it often does, I get full body goosebumps when I read those words. Someone without the marks of trauma is an outlier. That breaks my heart. That includes all of us in this room. It includes your partners, your spouses, your significant others. It includes your children. Here are some examples of, this is just a list. I will not be reading it to you. Take a look at it. This is part one. Here's part two. You'll notice the words at the top, an incomplete list of possible traumas. Not everyone who experiences these events will experience them as traumatic. It depends on many, many, many factors. The bottom line is that all of these things are running in the scripts in the backgrounds. This is our life experience for those who have these events in our lives. And now we're on the nursing unit or we're in the hospital. And now we have a situation that's emotionally triggering or high intensity emotionally. Makes it really, really difficult to show up with empathy for the other person and for ourselves. There's one more area you may not have considered traumatic. This was a recent learning for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Accumulated stress due to work and living environments, financial situations, health concerns, lack of sleep, and the list could go on and on. Over time, these are considered traumatic. They can show up that way. So think of this pool, again, this pool, geez, for me. Think of the water as your body, your physical body, your fascia, your tissues, your organ, your brain, your feelings, your emotions, the body of water. All of those balls in the water, think of those as sources of stress, maybe adverse events, maybe they are aggravations in your day. They can be a number of different things, but they create shock waves throughout your system. So you just no sooner smoosh away one set of the balls, even the little rubber duckies, when you have a lot of little rubber duckies pelting you at all times, they build up. Yeah, they build up and they build up. And then pretty soon you have a big beach ball coming in that's pretty big, significant. It's harder to push those away. It's really, really hard. So this accumulated stress here, I do believe this is a lot of the experience of healthcare staff. And then the impacts cover many different domains of being human, from our ability to emotionally regulate ourselves, how we think, our cognitive functioning, relationally, how we are with one another, our ability to have relationships, our perceptions and beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world, and physical and mental health. So all of these, so when I look at this slide, I think, well, my golly gracious, well, no wonder. It is so hard to have empathy. It's so incredibly difficult. Okay, let's look at the definition of empathy again. So empathy is a quality of understanding a person's experience without judgment. Okay. Two important points about empathy. Empathy does not mean agreement. That's huge. I tell you what, I've learned that lesson over and over and over. Just because I empathize with you does not mean I agree with you. It may, but it may not. So to understand you, I don't need to agree or like what you do or say. I can be with the most, for me, showing up for me as a difficult person that I'm working with. I can still have empathy for that human being. I don't have to agree or like this person, but I can empathize with them. So what does empathy do for a person? So this is, you guys all, you know this stuff, but I want to get it to you in a different way. When we have an experience that lights up that amygdala and it tells our nervous system there is danger in the field, even if it's perceived or real, our body is on alert. It's what our nervous system and our body is supposed to do. So when we experience that, it's very difficult to slow things down. So when we have empathy, it allows me to come back into my body, into the present moment. It allows me to shift from that part of my brain and the limbic part, and it allows me to go to the prefrontal cortex where my emotional regulation lives. It's where my empathy lives. So when I receive empathy, that's what happens for me. When I'm able to give empathy to another human being, I assist them with that same process to let them know that they matter, to let them know that their experience matters. I can help to downshift. I can help them to regulate, to settle from a state of activation. So that's the magic to me of empathy. When we experience empathy, there's a sense of having been gotten. Great English, right? Having been gotten, but it still works. I like it. So when you have an experience, imagine a time when you were with someone whom you trust. There's a relationship there, and you're sharing something difficult or something happened in your day, and that person's that deep, sweet listening space, and you have a sense that you were understood. What does it feel like in your bodies? What is the experience? When there's a sense of empathy, typically what happens, there's a physical thing that happens when think about the last challenging interaction you had with someone. Remember their body. Typically the shoulders are going to be up. There's more of an aggressive, there's more of this kind of energy. There's probably a squishing up of the face. There's something going on with the face. And when they have empathy, there's a softness. The shoulders tend to come down. There's a softness. There might be goosebumps. There might be tears. There's an exhale. The person may stop talking because there's really nothing left to say. And it's not because they're going silent. It's because they've been heard. There's a very big difference with that. So this is what we're going for, this experience here of being understood. Phew, got me. I feel gotten. It's a very yummy place to be. So here's an overview. So now I want to delve a little bit more deeply, and we'll do it with a case scenario in just a moment here. The natural language that you see here on the left, and you'll hear the acronym when we talk about nonviolent communication, we talk about OFNR, observations, feelings, needs, and requests. It's a template, if you will, okay? When we choose the natural language, what we're doing is we're cluing into our feelings, what's happening for us. The feelings point us in the direction of what we need. So that's the sweetness of nonviolent communication. Our habitual language, this is where our evaluations, our interpretations, our judgments live, which we're socialized to do. We're more situated as embrained people. We tend to be up here in our cognition a lot and not embodied. Okay, we tend to be more embrained. We tend to focus on strategies of how to fix things, strategies, how to solve problems, not bad or wrong, it just is. And then instead of making a request for what we need, we tend to make demands of other people, okay? So the tragedy, we've been socialized this way, but I don't want you to walk out of here thinking, oh, well, the left side is good and the right side is bad. That will defeat the entire purpose. All of this has a purpose, but I want you to have more skill and adeptness at identifying which one you're in at the time. Okay. Here's the scenario that we are going to use today. I'm pretty sure y'all can identify with this. A 79-year-old man has unrelenting pain following hip replacement, has not been able to participate in therapy. You've ordered blood work, results from radiology are pending. You've been at work for almost 9 hours and still have people waiting to speak with you. The son arrives and sees you sitting at the desk with a tone and a look on his face that you interpret as intense anger. He says, "What is wrong with you people? Why aren't the test results back?" Obviously, no one here cares, right? And it's got that look on the face, the intensity in the voice. Can all of you identify with something like this? Okay, and if you don't raise your hand, I know that you're probably lying, and yes, it's a judgment. Okay, so here is the basic process. So we're gonna weave this gentleman and his son throughout the next slides, and I want to demonstrate these principles for you. So the basic process to connect with ourselves and another. So I want you to imagine this is tons of a huge body of work that we're condensing, and I put it in one slide, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play with this, and I want you to understand that what you're having here is a portion of what is available with nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, okay? So the three very basic steps: identifying the stimulus, which I'll also use interchangeably, observation; the inner work of self-connection, which includes two parts, feelings and needs; and then there's the actual communication that it also includes two parts, empathy, guesses, and making a request. So first we learn the template. So when you learn a new hobby, it's not like you go from 0 to 60 overnight. Like if you're learning a language, a musical instrument, you're learning a new technique for wound care, whatever it might be, you learn the steps, and it might be very clunkadoodle at first, right? I want you to think of this as very clunkadoodle. At first, you're going to sound, when you start, if you choose to explore this way of speaking and thinking. When I first began 5-6 years ago, my son, who's now 20, he would say, "Mama, please don't talk like that." It sounded weird to my ears. It sounded even weirder coming out of my mouth. And my kid was like, "Oh, Mama, what's going on?" Right? even with my husband, people around me, because you play with it and then it becomes more fluid and then you get your training wheels off and now you're zooming along. And then I find myself back in the deep end of the pool again because the socialization's there. Okay, so let's identify the stimulus. And I use that interchangeably with observation. So it's the clearest we can be about what is happening in the moment, okay? Typically, when you think about observation, it's what we see, what we hear, sometimes not so much in healthcare settings, what we taste. That's probably not one of the senses we will use. But it's the stimuli, it's what's happening in the field, what's happening in the environment. What did the other person say or do? A way that you can think about this is, if I had a video camera, what would the video camera pick up? Now, even that is flawed, but I'm not going to go into that at the moment. So just for our purposes today, what did the video camera show? Okay. The other thing about observations is that they can be internally. So when that son approaches you on the unit and he's got that look on his face and that tone in his voice, you may have an internal reaction, something in you goes, I know that's what me, I don't like conflict. Never have, I get frightened. So when I have people that are what I perceive as agitated in my space, my field, I tend to want to go silent and I still shut down. Working on it, not there yet. So the story, the thought, the observation could also be the thought in my head. I hear myself telling myself, that's a really cool prompt. I hear myself telling myself, this guy is a jerk. Oh, look at that observation. Now, what I'm not doing is judging myself for having a judgment, right? Because I was taught that. I'm doing what I was taught. I pick it up. Oh, there's information there. I'm having a judgment. What is it it's telling me? The thing is, if we do not have an anchor to shared reality, it's very difficult. Have you ever had the experience when you've had an argument with someone and when you finally both calm down a little bit, you realize that you were actually arguing about different things? There was a disconnect, what the thing is that you were talking about. It was really frustrating, right? You wasted all that time and energy and probably a lot of hurt feelings. A lot of pain in the field. Okay, so in our example with this, the son that approaches you on the nursing unit or wherever you were at the hospital. So in this situation, what is the stimulus in our situation? There's actually two. Anyone care to offer? What was one? Remember, the stimulus is what you would probably, in this situation, what you would see or hear. His words, do you remember what they were, just generally? Nobody cares. What's wrong with you people? Right? Okay, good. What was the second one? Okay, more of the words. Yep. What was the other one that were not the words? His face. His face and the tone in his voice. What is wrong with you people? Why aren't the tests back? Obviously, no one here cares. And there's likely what I call a hook. There's something that happened with his behavior that you interpret in a certain way based on your own life and how you were socialized to interpret things. There's a hook with the tone of his voice, okay? That's going to add to the pain in the field. Okay, so the first part that we're going to do here is we are going to talk about the inner work of self-connection. The inner work. So there's two parts to this. The inner work is basically the self-empathy part. So here's the thing. Physical pain has an important, I'm in a room with a ton of physicians. If your patient says they have pain, you know exactly what to do. What is it? Where is it? What does it look like? What mitigates it? What makes it better? What makes it worse? All the stuff that you do, yes? I want you to think of feelings as the same exact thing. The feelings are like a compass in your body. They point you to the direction of what you need. You'll notice, it's hard to see a little bit. I usually put these on the floor in a big decorative circle, but we couldn't do it here. So all of these here, we're going to be talking about these things and all of the things on the tables, and I didn't put them on the seats in the back, but all of these red words here, these are all the feelings words. These are from a box that I use in my work. They're called Grok. I don't have any financial connection with this company, folks. It's just what I do. Okay, so these are called Grok cards. There's many different ones, and there's cards, there's decks of cards. You can get playful with this. Anytime we can gamify stuff, it helps learning. So feelings have a similar thing, and I want you to know that whether I say self-empathy, I interchange compassion, support, understanding. To me, these are all the same. Understanding our own feelings and needs before we attempt to understand another's. This is the skill that we're trying to onboard right here today. Okay, so here are some feelings words. Now, This will be a handout that you will have with you. I always take mine with me. This is my feelings and needs list. I carry it with me wherever I go. And it's, guess what? It's laminated because I hold it all the time. So if I'm composing an email, if I'm preparing for a meeting and I notice there's a bit of charge going on in me, I get my feelings and needs list out because there's something going on. I'm getting a message. I need to pay attention. So I've had people make copies of these, begin to have this language. It's like any language, you have to start using the words before they become fluid. That's what this is. It's a language. I want you to notice something here. If you notice on the left side over here is your feelings typically when your needs are being met. On the other side, you'll notice the line down the middle is when your needs are not being met. They're not good or bad, right or wrong. They're not positive or negative. So please lose all that kind of language when we talk about our feelings. Feelings are simply the nature of being human. They're not right or wrong. They're not good or bad. The breadth and depth of what we can experience as humans is much more than what we were socialized to feel and what we were taught was permissible. Okay. So the inner work is also self-connecting to our needs. So the needs are the words that you see in the yellow. These are the needs that are around the room. So we all have, for example, a need for consideration. Of course we do. Of course we do. We're all human. So the thing about needs is that they are universal qualities of being human and they sustain us to be alive. So a key NVC principle is that every single thing that every person doing is at every moment an attempt to meet their shared human needs, the same needs as me, the same needs as you, the same needs as that man and the son on the unit, the same needs as the patient in that room. No matter our socioeconomic status, our religion, our sexual orientation, our gender, where we live, where we grew up, it does not matter. We all have the same needs as human beings. So when I can choose to empathize with the needs that are motivating a person's behavior, that is when the magic happens. Bless you. That is when the magic happens. When I can understand, oh, you too are meeting your needs just as I am in this moment. These are the skills that we're going to be onboarding. Marshall Rosenberg would say every human being is doing the best they know how at that moment to meet their needs, including the people you do not enjoy, who are doing and saying things that you find very challenging and unpleasant to be around. Okay. Here's the needs. So that will be the opposite side of this handout. Just take a moment and take in, and if you were to Google nonviolent communication feelings and needs list, there's many variations of these, but they all point to the same thing. So I might use one particular word. There's many synonyms, you know that, right? So for ease, this is the list that I use here. Let's take that in for a moment. The challenge here is that we are taught, we are socialized that having some of the needs up here are okay and some are not okay, right? We are taught that if we have needs, many of you in this room, I would guess, were taught that if you have needs, you are somehow selfish, right? So of course we're going to clam up, we're going to shut down, we're not going to speak up. Because if I speak up, then I'm selfish. That's been ingrained. I wonder if anyone else can identify with that. So as a result, what happens sometimes is that we are socialized and trained to care predominantly for other people's needs. Welcome to the world of caregiving, right? We care almost predominantly for the other human beings' needs and we neglect our own. For some people, it might be the opposite. Some humans are socialized to only care for their needs and not have any awareness of other people's needs, right? So sometimes we can have those dichotomies. There are a few needs that I do consider what I call core. The need to be heard, understood, acknowledged, to have choice, to matter, and to be in connection. These are so foundational, like the roots of that tree, to being human. So when you are feeling agitated or frustrated or you're angry or you're hurt, I pretty much guarantee you that one of these needs on this slide are not being met. They're not being met. Okay, so human needs. In our scenario, What were the needs? And there's, again, I want to be playful here. There's no right or wrong. What are the needs that are up? When I say the word up, what I mean is, what are the things that are going on? What's in the field? What's alive? What's up for that person at that time? So let's talk about you. You're the provider sitting at the desk, 9 hours, you're exhausted. You really do want to go home, right? Here comes that son. Oh boy. What are your needs in that moment? Sleep. Sleep, rest, yes, yes. So knowing that that need is not being met at that moment, do you think it might impact how you possibly could show up with this guy? What's more? Mm. So I'm hearing, so she says cooperation. It's also like a quality of being understood, that your intention, that you want to be trusted for your intention, that you're really there to show up and help this man and help his father, that you care. Yeah. Do you guys identify with that? Oh, I just got the goosebumps again. That's my litmus test. Okay. What else? Is there anything else coming up for you? Your unmet needs in this scenario. Oh, okay. So that you want some acknowledgement. There's a limitation here. There's a limitation that you are, remember, interdependent. So you're interdependent on the pathology, the lab. You're interdependent on the radiology department. Yeah. Ooh, appreciation. You want to say a few more things on that, Leslie? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That it would be so lovely. And even if it didn't come from this gentleman, but to be acknowledged for your care and your willingness to be present yet another hour to tend to this patient who's obviously having something going on. Is the need for safety up for anybody in this scenario? It took me a while to get to that one. I worked on this with a colleague of mine, and we both agreed. Now, for me, it might be my socialization as a woman, that when I have a male figure coming at me with that kind of energy and that charge, saying those words to me, what the hell is wrong with you? Oof, even if it's not physical safety, there's an emotional safety that's not being met for me in that moment. So I want to acknowledge that there's a sense of safety. For some people, remember the list of possible traumas, the slides before, for people who've experienced really difficult childhoods, that emotional safety could then segue right into a sense of not having physical safety. Even though the likelihood of that gentleman doing something that would impact physically, the potential is still there. Remember your amygdala, the purpose of your amygdala is to let you know when there's a real or perceived threat. This could be a perceived threat. So I just want to name that that could also be going on. Okay. I want to say a thing about anger here oh, no, I'm sorry. I want to do one more thing. We talked about you. Let's talk about the son. What are the son's unmet needs in this situation? What is it he's needing? What could you possibly imagine that would be up for this man to motivate him to say the words he said to you in the way that he did? What's up for him? To have some power. Absolutely. Yep. When we have, so just playing with that, I love that you said that. No one said that with this example yet. So when you have a sense that you don't have access to something, you don't have power, if you have a sense of helplessness in your body and a feeling of not having what you need, there is a need for power. There's nothing wrong with the need for power. We all need power. Power is access to resources. Heard and understood. Any idea what he might need to be heard and understood about? It's painful for him. Yeah. Yeah. So I think those are, any other ones really quickly? I had trust on my list, that he wants to trust. He wants to trust. I know as a family member, when I've been in medical situations with people I love, even though I have zero doubt of the competence of the providers, there's still like a panic inside, a sense of, I want to trust. I want to know that you are taking care of my person, right? Okay. I want to say a bit about anger. Anger is a tricky emotion here, folks. So if you think of anger poking out of the iceberg, out of the water at the tip of the iceberg, anger is up here. It's visible, it's typically audible, it's what we see and what we hear. Look at what's beneath it. What are the things that are beneath it? All of those are their feelings. Typically, your anger, it's vulnerability in its protected form, okay? For some of us, we are socialized that we can't be angry. Don't make people angry. So even anger is a tricky emotion for some people. But underneath that anger is typically a lot of emotions. I don't consider anger a primary emotion. There's something going on underneath. What do you think are below the feelings? What are they? They're the needs. The needs are what are below, beneath the feelings. So we've got the anger up here. We've got all the protected emotions that anger is trying to protect and cover up because they're very vulnerable. And beneath all of that is where our needs live. Okay. This helps me sometimes to remember when I'm around someone who's angry. Here's another visual that helps me a lot of the time. When there's a thing in the field, there's something going on, a situation, what tends to happen is we tend to get stuck in the story. What happened? Who said what then? And the angering, the blaming, the argument, the judgment, right? It's very easy. We get stuck here a lot. If you can, it's there, the story is there and it's not bad or wrong. But if you can think about the story and then drop down out of the story to the feelings and the needs, which are what's below, that's where the magic can happen. We get out of the story and we drop down. So when you're with someone who's acting and behaving or saying words in a way that you're not enjoying or you don't understand, that's the story. Drop down, begin having a practice. What might this human be feeling? What might they be needing? That's the beginning of empathy. I love this quotation by Viktor Frankl. He says that between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This is what we're talking about with separating the story and what's happening and stepping down into the feelings and the needs. It helps us connect to our shared humanity. When we can look for the person, the human being beneath the words, beneath the actions, and then what typically happens is the magic. Because what happens there, think about the son in this situation. What did we say he needed? Trust, care. You said understanding. The gentleman here said power. Can you all identify with those needs as well? You betcha. Okay, so when I can connect with him at that level of needs, that's when my heart will probably open more to him. Okay? The reason that's important, finding our shared humanity, is because we tend to soften. We tend to soften that need to get defensive, the need to argue. Those are actually not needs, that's just a euphemism. Our tendency, our socialization to argue, to defend, and all of that, it softens because I'm more willing to engage with the other person because I can understand too what it feels like to want to have power and consideration and to have trust. Okay? Okay, so now for the third step of the process. This is the actual communication. This is where we actually get to connect with what they say and do to what is happening for them. Okay, so expressing what you imagine to be going on. This is a prompt. Okay, are you feeling, and then you guess a feeling because you need, want, or would like, and you guess a need. It sounds very robotic. In fact, when you first start working with nonviolent communication, this is where my son was like, Mama, what is going on? Honey, are you a need for consideration? What? It's like I had I grew horns and it was just a very ugly situation, right? Anyway, it was awkward for me. It was very discouraging. And there were times I was like, if I saw another feelings and needs list, I was going to throw it in the trash. And then I would go get it down. I was like, ooh, there's still something here. I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to stay with it. So this is the template. So when you ride a bike, right, you might put your training wheels on and you get going and then you get more fluid. So it's just a process. It does get easier. So an empathy guess is a question, it's not a statement. So just feel in your body what this difference is. I'm wondering if you're upset. Would you have a need for understanding? Would you like me to understand how difficult this is for you? Would you like to feel understood? Versus, I know you're upset and that you need understanding. Oof, right? What happens if someone says that to you? Love it. I love how there's so much laughter. Like, you're like, what the hell? Like, I'm going to put a wall up. You just told me what I am. I'm like, no, I'm not. And now I'm in the hamster wheel again, and we're going around and around. The other thing you want to do is ask. It's a lovely connection question at the end. Did I get it? Did I hear that correctly? Is that right? So when you offer an empathy guess, you're going to check with them. Did I get it? There's a lot of different prompts that you can do. I just put a couple up here. And it might take several rounds of listening. The other thing is when you're working with an individual or communicating that has diminished capacity for whatever reason, dementia or a TBI or some kind of illness that impairs them in that moment, the onus of responsibility does shift to us because we are the ones that has the capacity in that moment. It doesn't mean that you're still not at your 10th hour of work and you're really tired and you really want to go home. So if you're noticing that your capacity is diminished, even with someone who has a diminished capacity, you're like, that's when we call upon our colleagues. That's where we make requests. That burnout presentation I do, but that's when we say, hey, I'm not at full capacity. I don't have what it takes to stay present in this moment and to show up in a way that I can be proud of and not regret later today or tomorrow. Okay. So what we're going for is delivering understanding. Now, true empathy is an art, it's a skill, it's a practice. This was a big one, I'll tell you. My husband knows I use him in my presentation, so don't worry, I have permission, okay? So just saying I understand, he would do, oh, I understand. And I was like, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't actually, no. So it's not about the other person saying, I understand. It's about the person having a sense of feeling understood. Do you get that there's a difference with that? Yeah. When you're sharing something with someone, what you're needing is a sense, and it happens in your body, of feeling understood. It's not the other person, oh, I understand what you're saying. They might hear my words. They speak English just like I do, but they may not understand. So it doesn't mean agreement. So again, what happens here is that energetic shift is what we're going for. When you can see and start picking up the clues when this happens, it's really, really, really fun. So let's talk about what empathy guesses might sound like in our scenario here. So the actual communication, okay? The guess, how does this sound to your ears? It sounds like you're very concerned and want to trust that your dad's getting the care he needs and that we'll figure out the source of his pain. It's stressful waiting on the test results. Is that it? Now, that's what I would call more of a templated NVC empathy guess. There's nothing wrong with this. It would actually probably work well. It's also going to depend on your tone, right? Nonverbal communication is far more than your verbal communication. So how you deliver the message. The naturalized guess, which is a skill that we get a little bit later, remember, put your training wheels on. At least we didn't say, are you mad because you need care and to trust your dad is fine? Oh dear, right? That's essentially what I'm going after, yeah? How about this? Now, if you'll notice here with this, what we call naturalized guess, I'm going straight for the needs. I didn't even bring up the feelings, which is a choice, because sometimes if people, remember we talked about feelings can be uncomfortable for some people, I may not even talk about them. And it's a discernment. You have an intuition about the person. I'm guessing that what you really want to know is that your dad is well taken care of, and it's so nerve-wracking to wait for the test results. Is that it? Did I get it? Did I hear you? Do you see how I naturalized that, made it more flowy, and it sounds more natural? You find your voice as you do this type of practice. The other thing you can do is expressing what's going on for you, because empathy is not always about, remember, balancing our needs is about my needs and it's about your needs. It's about my needs and it's about the son's needs, right? So we want to be able to express what's going on for us. Now, I may not choose to do that in the moment when I've got this son who I'm interpreting as very angry in front of me, but I may also choose to do it. It depends. It might sound like this. It's really important, or it really matters to me. Find the words that you like. That your dad receives the care he needs and to figure out the next step. We want to get his pain under control. Yeah, get him back in therapy. I just checked with the radiology department. They anticipate the results in an hour, and I've asked the charge nurse to check on the blood results in another 30 minutes. So what I'm doing here is I'm expressing my perspective as the provider to letting the son know, I too am human. I too have needs. and I'm putting my needs on the table along with yours. And I'm inviting him to collaborate with me, that we're in this together. I could have chosen to get defensive. I just called radiology. Yes, the blood, I know it's been a long time. I get that. I'm angry too. I get it. Why are you yelling at me? Please don't. Security, right? So I'm exaggerating, obviously, to make a point. But we can react in the ways that we are socialized, or we can choose to show up in a different way. Okay, the other part of the actual communication is I can't see my slide. I've got this thing in my slides, Carrie. It's so frustrating. You know what? I'm just going to admit my vulnerability and come look at my slides with you. That's what I want to do, is make a request. Okay, here we go. It's okay. I've got a thing on the thing over here. It's just, I've been working around it so far, except in that moment I couldn't. See this whole thing here. Oh, I don't want to touch anything because I'm afraid he'll have to come back and he won't be here. I'm just very afraid right now. My feelings are afraid. Actually, that might work there. That's more visible. Thank you. Thank you. The thing on the thing. Okay. So the thing we want to do here now is we want to make a request. That's part 2 of the actual communication. So we don't jump to making a request until people have a sense of feeling understood. If we jump right to making a request, I've bypassed a very important part of the process. So a request can be just about anything. A request can be anything that will help the situation. I put a prompt on here. Think of it like, is there anything I can ask for in this moment that's going to help things? What will help, right? What will help? So making a request is a practice. So in the slide deck that you're going to download, there'll be much more material on this, because this is really extensive, but I'm giving you a taste. Okay, there's 2 types of requests, and then there's 4 parts to making the second type. So let me start with this. Or not. Oh, Carrie. Oh, no. Oh, it's stuck. It's not. It won't advance with the keyboard or. Oh, heavens. Did it work? Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. Don't touch anything. Okay, round 3, we got it. Thank you for being patient, having some humor here. It's all good. Okay, so we're going to use a mouse now. Okay, so 2 types of requests. The first type is a connection request. This is attending to the relationship between the people. There's lots of examples. I'm not going to read this slide, but I love giving people prompts, because I believe it's like helping you with your training wheels of getting you to the next step of having, these are the words in the language. So the thing about the connection request, it's very important they come before the solution request. The solution request comes after hearing people feel understood, all the needs are on the table, and then we make solution requests, or basically the proposals of what can we do to make the situation better, okay? Which one do we tend to go to first? Yeah, number 2, the solution and action, because we're socialized to fix things. Remember the slide before, empathy blocks? We're taught so quickly to jump into fixing and advising and making things better and explaining and educating. We bypass the such important part of making the connection request. So here's the key points. So let me just give you a quick overview. The key points to making a solution request, there's 4. First thing, positive action language. You want to make sure that you're asking for what you do want, not what you don't. You can't do a don't, okay? But yet, what is the language that we're taught to use? Don't do that. Think of how we educate our children. Don't do, instead of saying, what would I rather this child, what would I rather this other human being do, instead of doing a don't, okay? Part 2, doable, specific, and realistic. It's clear what you want the person to do. If I say to you, be respectful, folks, that's not a doable request, because if I asked each of you to define what does respectful mean to you, I'm going to get a lot of variability. So if I say to you, be respectful, what you're thinking is, oh, okay, you have a definition, I have a definition. Now we're going to be in that spiral again and arguing with each other. If being respectful to me means, before you approach me in my office, would you ask if I have a moment to speak with you? Rather than barging in and telling me every problem that's happening to you at the first moment of the day. that's not respectful for me, right? So doable, specific, and realistic. Third thing is yes or no. Typically your solution requests are, would you be willing to, would you enjoy, how would it work if, and I'm looking for a yes or no in that instance. It doesn't mean that we can't expand on it and grow it, but in the moment it's a yes or a no. Non-attachment to outcome. What this means is that I am open to hearing a no. If I asked you, hey, would you be willing to, or would you enjoy, or would you like, and you tell me no, no worries. I'm open and to hearing a no. There's not me being attached to an outcome with a certainty with you saying yes. When I'm not attached to an outcome, what that means is I receive your no with grace, hopefully with grace and compassion. And what I turn it around in my brain and I say is, oh, I heard a no. That means you're saying yes to something else. You're saying yes to meeting other needs that I'm not yet aware of. Ooh, I can get curious. Now I'm going to ask more questions. But do you see what happens? We tend to disguise our requests as demands. So if there's any indication, and it's up there on the screen. So look at this bottom part, punishment and consequences. If we make a request of another person and they say no, and we do these sorts of behaviors, and humans are infinite in our possibilities of how we punish and give consequences to people. There's a few on this slide. Then that definitely means I was certainly attached to an outcome. I was not receptive to your no. I had an expectation of you, and it's more of a demand. It's not a request. Yeah? Okay. Here are some examples. Connection requests. These are just examples. If you don't like a particular one, no worries, toss it, we'll find another. There's so many possibilities with this language. So these are all connection requests. So you have a sense that when I go here first, I want to connect with the son before I go to the solution. Did I address your concern? Does it support you? Does it support clarity? Do you feel heard? I love that. Do you feel heard in this moment? What more can I do to support you to feel heard? Solution requests. And you'll notice the different flavor here, right? So how about if I call you in an hour and let you know where things are and we can decide what to do together next? Is there anything else I can do to support your peace of mind? These are specific actions that I'm looking for to help meet the needs in the situation. Remember, we had needs for care, we had needs for trust, we had needs for consideration, appreciation. I'm trying to find a solution request that holds all of the needs, puts all of the needs on the table. That's what your solution requests are all about. Okay, so here's a little ditty thing I love to share. Connection before correction, empathy before education. Unfortunately, we've been socialized to do the exact opposite, okay? Connect and empathy before correction and education. We're almost done, a couple more slides. If you're stuck and you don't know what to ask for, the purpose here, it's hard. Sometimes like, I have no idea what to ask for. If you have that stuck feeling, your prompt at that moment is go back and think about what need, if I have a need for consideration or for care or to be heard, what would I want to ask for in that moment that would help meet my need for those that would help? What is it I want? What I need? If I'm supporting another person to meet their needs, for example, to have a sense of purpose or to know what's going to happen next, like with the son, maybe he needs to know what's going to happen. What happens if radiology doesn't get back? What happens if the blood results don't? What do I do next? He's looking for information, right? So I'm going to make a proposal that would help support his need to have that predictability, to have that need for information. Okay. The other thing is if you are in your alarm zone, so if you're on that station and he's there and you're spaced and you're exhausted, and if you are in your alarm zone and you know that the request might be an internal one, oof, I'm not capacity. I don't have capacity to meet with this man right now. I might pull one of you all over. I need help right now. I need your help in this moment. I might say to the son, I'm noticing I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to step away for just a moment. I'm going to find someone that can help you. I do not have to explain myself to this man. I don't have to make excuses. I simply am owning that I am not resourced in the moment. I'm going to make a request from a colleague to step in and support me. Okay, so coming down the home stretch here, the last thing I want to share is these are practices. I've actually given you many, many practices that you could play with in this presentation. So a practice is designed to train your way of being and shape it gradually over time. It may not affect how you change externally, but it will change how we show up. A lot of NVC is internal work with understanding our feelings and needs and how we show up and do we have capacity, are we willing, and all of this stuff. Every one of these is a practice. So here's an example. Creating new habits. This is for anything. The example I will give you is based on our work today, but anytime you want to create a new habit, you have the knowledge. So if we were to do a needs-based awareness practice, I've taught you that needs are universal, shared by all human beings. Everything a person says or does is an attempt to meet their needs, the same needs as you and I. Okay? That's the knowledge. And then we have the skill. So when someone does something that I don't like, I will consider what need they might be meeting at that moment. That's the skill. The practice takes it to the next level. Whenever someone speaks in a meeting, I will internally translate their words into feelings and needs. So I've taken it from knowledge to a skill and to something I do on a regular basis to onboard the new skill, and now it's an ingrained part of how I show up. Okay, so we have a few minutes. I just want to say thank you. I usually will leave that at the very end. I hope it was inspiring and have some curiosity about doing this work, about joining me in this work. It might be uncomfortable, willingness to stick through the discomfort and know that it's when you onboard these skills, that the magic that happens with people in our communication within ourselves is really amazing. So I want to ask these last questions, and I'm also open to any questions you might have. We have about 7 minutes. And we did it with all the tech stuff even. We did it. Okay. Any thoughts, like what bits might you take with? What caught your attention? This is not about me, folks. This is about you. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. What spoke to you? What might you imagine doing differently? Or questions. If there's any questions, I'm happy to engage in that too.
First question as others are thinking, and also we'll look on Zoom if there are any questions, but thank you for your talk and the opportunity to think through this. Why not just ask someone what they're feeling or needing?
It's a great question. Why not just ask them? So you can. There's no rules with this. However, what typically happens, and what are you feeling at this moment? You're like, I don't know. Remember that we don't have a lot of language when it comes to expressing our own feelings. So when I'm asked that question, I might feel put on the spot a little bit or uncomfortable. Oh, I don't know. I'm fine, right? How are you feeling? Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. So when I offer, I'm wondering if you're feeling unnerved about something. See, now I've created a pathway in your brain very quickly to say, oh, no, it's not really unnerved. I'm actually really aggravated. No, I'm very quiet. I'm exhausted. But do you see, I've opened up the language. I've opened up the pathway to have more access. So, thanks.
Thank you so very much. Is this on? Does it sound like it's on? Okay. You asked that question, Hillary, and there's a book Brene Brown wrote called Atlas of the Heart, I think it's called. And she talks about how when you ask people, how many emotions do you feel? It's like angry, sad, happy, whatever. There's like 4, right?
There's like 4.
Yeah. And so that's usually what people will come back with. Oh, I'm mad, or I'm happy, or I'm, whatever. And it's really a fascinating book, as are the lists that you've given us with all the different terms. But as you were talking, I was working through this scenario from the weekend where this gentleman came up to me and said, I understand you work at the VA, and I'm very angry with the VA, and you need to hear what my complaints are, and spoke to me for probably 45 minutes. We were in a store, and my husband abandoned me.
Oh, thank you, hubby.
And there I was, and I just keep thinking of how helpful this would have been.
Yes.
In that moment, in trying to understand where he was coming from, and all of that anger was, your iceberg. And so anyway, and at the same time, I wanted to empathize with him, and at the same time, I'm not sure I can help him.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's just the being present that was all that I could reasonably do. But anyway, sometimes you feel like you want to help so badly, and you can listen, but you can't actually fix the problem that the person needs you to fix.
It's a wonderful example. And I want to say that you actually did do something in the moment. We tend to forget that empathy is the presence. right? It's the presence of being with someone in their pain and their frustration. The other thing I want to point out here, that's a fabulous role play. If anyone wants to role play that with Carrie, really, that's a really, really, really good one, because you can, what were you feeling? What were you needing? And then you take his perspective. What was he feeling? What was he needing? The other thing I want to introduce that I don't have in these slides that I want to bring into the field really quickly is the concept of willingness and capacity. Were you actually willing in that moment? Here you are, it's the weekend, you have time off, you're out with your hubby and having a nice time. And this gentleman comes up to you and invades your space and your time. And now it's 45 minutes later and you're abandoned by your husband, by the way. So were you really willing at that moment? And to what degree did you have capacity? See, we tend to smoosh those down because we don't have the skills to really say, do I have the resources, internal resources? Am I willing? So the resources, if I have a sense that I'm going to be resentful for spending time with that man later, you were not willing in that moment. So I want us to introduce those concepts that even though, yeah, you want to support, you want to help, you're willing to hear that he's aggravated as hell with the VA, something's not going right, but is it all yours to shoulder in that moment? And what's your limitation? So there's so much, that's a very juicy scenario. We'll role play it. Yeah, sir.
Thanks for the presentation today. It was great. Made me think about how I communicate versus maybe how I could communicate differently and perhaps better. And one of the things that I really took away was the slide where you said empathy is not agreement, and that you can be empathetic and not agree. And so that opens my mind a little bit about things. And one of the problems I have with empathy is, for me, I want to be empathetic, but I have to understand where someone is coming from, or maybe I don't have to. It helps me be more empathetic if I can understand. So I tend to ask a lot of questions to try to get at why someone is feeling the way they are. And in doing so, on occasion, the questions I ask to somebody makes them angry because they're like, you're not getting it. And what I'm trying to do for myself is I'm trying to get it.
Yes.
But I'm going about it in a way that isn't working well for the other person. Do you have any suggestions?
I do. I actually have several things. So you brought up the slide. Remember the slide with all the empathy blocks? And there's one on there called interrogation or questioning. It sounded like that was what kind of that segued into. You really desire and you want to understand, and getting your need met for understanding to be empathetic. You're asking a lot of questions, which is now stimulating a reaction in the other person. Now you've got irritation in the field. Yeah. I think one of the moves I think of them as moves. There's not right or wrong answers. They're moves, like, oh, I could go this way. I might go this way. I might go this way. So what you might do in that section is name it. I would love to understand where you're coming from. And I'm noticing I don't have all the information I need. My instinct and my habit is to ask a lot of questions. Could you help me understand what would work for you in this moment? How can I support you? I also want to empathize and I want to have all the information, but I'm concerned that I may be going out about it in a way that's not working for you. And then let the silence permeate the space for just a moment and see what bubbles up. How does that fit for you? Possible? Try, you bet. Yeah.
So I just had this scenario present to me with my research staff, in that we have a very challenging research volunteer who is not very nice to the staff, and automatically puts people on the defensive when they walk in the room, complaining about different things, thinks the study should be done a different way. Is a research staff on campus themselves, and they're a PhD. So, and to the point where I got an email from one of my coordinators saying, all right, they've pretty much been, unprofessional to every one of us. What at this point can we do without removing them from the study, even though we tried that early on to say, maybe this isn't the study for you because you believe that the study should be done a different way. We get that, but so maybe this is not the study for you to do, but they still wanted to do it. And so I reached out to the IRB director to get advice, because I know my instinct is to be reflexive and protect my staff and remove the person, but thinking along these lines, I've even drafted an email. I just haven't sent it, like to meet with this person to understand what their concerns may be, what we can do differently to help them enjoy their participation in the research study
Yep.
without having to remove them. But also, you know, not, but also listen to my staff and not keep them in an uncomfortable position, situation for
mhm.
10 more weeks.
It sounds like you would just have love of ease of everyone working together in a way that brings joy and the shared purpose. So it's not like there's a desire to have a shared purpose, but there's people that are doing things in other ways that are not working for other people, and it's creating a lot of tension amongst the staff. And there's also, I heard, a power differential. Once you said the words PhD to me, I was like, oh, there's power. There's a power thing, right? So I think that there's a lot of different ways you can do that. I love it that you crafted the email and that you sat with the email. Very good. Very, very good. That's one of the things I love to do with people is like, oh, let's take a look at that email. The things you can start thinking about, what are the unmet needs? Where can she possibly find synergy with this other human being with whom where there's a challenge? Because I guarantee you that there's going to be there's a sharedness that even though you're going about it differently, there's definitely shared needs in this one. And that's where if you're asking for any sort of guidance with that, I would find the shared needs and go at it that way. And when you show up with this person, making sure that you're doing with complete openness and capacity and willing to be present in the midst of anger. Yep. And remember, it's not about you. It is not about you. When we have anger in the field, folks, it's not about you. It's about a person's reaction based on their life history and experience, which is the socialization and exposure to trauma, right? And that's what they're coming to you with. You hold it tenderly. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm happy to stay, but
Yeah, I think we'll, let you have one-on-one interactions, and we'll transition to division meeting. And thank you for this presentation. We'll also
You're welcome.
send out the information.